had charcoal, I would fry this bird, we'd have it for dinner and go home with it. Again. Not home in the car. I see that. Put it on the tree, we get the card and the bird on the tree. That's it, that's all we need.
Good, we'll do it.
It's not gonna go.
Look, see? One more time. Let's just, he'll do it.
That's it.
Good idea, if you'll leave it alone.
Just on the tree with the bird. We're paying this bird. It's on the tree. Take it off. All we need is the bird and the sign. That's all we need.
Okay, now, that's good, that's good.
Good. I can't read it. It's going to be straight with the bird. It's not good.
Oh, no, wait a minute. Look at this. He's going to turn it around. No.
I really hate this bird.
You all right, Tuggy? Your mummy's coming on. Will you say hello and welcome the wonderful Elaine? Oh!
A new film at 9 tonight. The school team is off to Holland.
Only 3 matches, lads, so let's go all out for 100% record.
Sport is the last thing on their minds when they discover Dutch girls.
General socialising, Giles. That's for the head's instructions.
Do you want to go to a discotheque tonight?
Who, me?
Yes, you.
Let loose in Amsterdam, the boys learn a different set of rules, and one discovers love.
You like your school?
No, I hate it.
You live there?
Yeah, it's a boarding school.
All boys together?
It's like, yeah. Keep together, for God's sake. Eyes front.
This is it. What, Jimmy?
Got the money?
God, yes.
Let's go.
A new story by award-winning writer William Boyd, Dutch Girls, tonight at 9 on LWT.
Dutch girls.
And next we catch up with the latest world news from ITN after the break.
Usually, keep the shelves nicely stacked.
In a large Sainsbury's, we'll sell over 140 different cheeses. Now, notice the display. Temperature controlled, cheese in perfect condition. Ah, this is interesting.
Can you show me where the mustard is, please?
Roquefort, perhaps the greatest of the blue cheeses. It's made from sheep's milk.
Sorry.
It was the mustard. The customer couldn't find it.
Sainsbury's, where good food costs you less and the service is free.
Here in Britain, there's a company that's out to change the world, simply by bringing countries closer together. For example, we've laid a submarine cable tying Australia and New Zealand to Canada via Fiji and Hawaii. Our telecommunications connect the Caribbean to the rest of the world. Our earth stations link Britain with the Middle East, Hong Kong, and America. And by 1989, a fiber optic cable will span the Atlantic, transmitting at the speed of light. We're called Cable and Wireless, and we're growing bigger by making the world a little smaller.
Each year, in the East, an important ceremony takes place. In the most sound-conscious nation on Earth, experts gather to judge the world's hi-fi, component by component. Since 1974, one company has won a Grand Prix award every year. So if you want Grand Prix hi-fi performance, better buy Hitachi.
In May, this car went to Rome to pick up the Premio Attelita for its advanced design and technology. In June, it received the annual German Road Safety Award in Berlin. Then last month, it travelled to Sweden to collect a gold medal for its contribution to safety by fitting anti-lock brakes as standard. Hardly surprising, then, that last week in London, the Ford Granada walked off with the UDT Guild of Motoring Writers Top Car Award for 1986. It made rather a good speech, too.
Kentucky Fried Chicken's mouth-watering free chicken offer. For full details, see our advertisement in these newspapers tomorrow.
It's not surprising so many drinks require umbrellas. They're so wet. Which is why Sandeman have introduced Character, an aperitif with a delightful dry side. Character's a nicely rounded sherry, but never sweet. And just as you savor that surprise, Character springs another. It turns quite deliciously dry. Unlike the English summer.
This is LWT, where we now join the studios of ITN for a roundup of the latest world news with Alistair Stewart.
Egyptian commandos go in as at least 2 die in Malta hijack. One woman survivor tells her story. Terry Waite heads for New York on his mission to free US hostages in Beirut. And the Italians shed a little to take the rally lead. Good evening. The Malta airline hijack has ended violently in the last few minutes. Egyptian commandos sent to Valletta by President Mubarak stormed the aircraft. There was a large explosion and shooting. Reports just coming in suggest there are a number of casualties among the passengers and that all the hijackers were killed. Earlier, the hijackers killed at least 1 woman passenger and shot several others. The Egyptian pilot, Mr. Hani Galal, reported 7 dead and said he had a gun at his head. The hijackers from a group called Egypt's Revolution had demanded more fuel, but Malta refused. Armed with pistols and grenades, the hijackers took over the plane soon after it left Athens on a scheduled flight to Cairo. They ordered it to Malta and then demanded fuel to go on to Libya or Tunisia. We've just had this report from Michael Sheridan, who's in Valletta.
A few minutes ago, there was a loud bang and a bright flash from the plane. Clouds of whitish smoke could be seen billowing from the cockpit area. Fire trucks and police vehicles with flashing lights sped up to the aircraft, followed by a fleet of ambulances. One large ambulance has driven right up to the plane itself. The situation is still one of total confusion, but it now looks very much as if the team of Egyptian commandos that's been on standby at the airport all day have now stormed the plane. And from the number of ambulances at the scene, it seems clear that there must be casualties. Just an hour ago, the Maltese government spokesman had refused to rule out a military option to end the hijack. All day long, the Egyptair Boeing 737 with the hijackers and the remaining hostages on board had stood on a remote runway of the island's airport. The Maltese security forces sealed off the area and kept well away. Some reports say up to 7 people have died, but so far the Maltese government is only confirming that 1 woman has been killed and 7 people injured, most of them with gunshot wounds to the head. The plane landed at a virtually blacked-out airport here after a shootout on board between security men and the hijackers. Malta's Prime Minister and other politicians rushed to the control tower to take charge of negotiations with the men in English and Arabic. It was after some food had been sent on board that 9 Filipino women were released as a gesture by the hijackers.
Malta has no specialised police squad for tackling hijacks. In the last hijack here, when a Libyan airliner landed, the authorities settled it peacefully.
We're going to try and talk to Michael Sheridan again later in the programme. One of the Egyptian passengers spoke about her ordeal on board the plane after the gunmen had freed her.
When they saw Israeli girl, they were very rude to her. And I think after they were planning, after finishing doing something with her, and they killed her. Now she's dead and the other one is wounded, so...
What nationality were the hijackers?
I think they're Palestinian.
Who were the people that you saw who were shot?
Sure, it's the man, the
hostess?
No, the
security
Palestinian man.
The hijacker.
He was shot. The security man was shot a little bit, but he was on the floor. Another one, the two air hostess were shot. One girl, she was beaten on the head, so she had a little blood on the head. This is all till I left. After I left, the others, the one Israeli girl was dead, the other was wounded.
Were you still on the plane when the Israeli girl was shot?
But they told me after that.
Here, the Labour spokesman on Foreign Affairs, George Fuchs, has said that British Airlines should now consider boycotting Athens Airport. The hijack is the second to start at Athens Airport in 5 months. The first was the TWA flight, which was ordered to Beirut by Palestinian gunmen.
The Greeks didn't impose any extra security at Athens Airport today, maintaining that existing checks are perfectly adequate and that their electrical and X-ray equipment is the latest available. It was in June, after a TWA plane was hijacked to Beirut, that the spotlight was turned on Athens Airport, because like the latest hijack, the plane had flown from there. IATA, the airline's international body, had warned the Greeks back in April that security at Athens was inadequate. After the June hijack, the Americans went further and warned their people not to use it. The Greek authorities denied at the time that security was lax and suggested that the weapons then used might have been smuggled aboard before the plane arrived in Athens. But the suggestion was never backed up, and it was concluded that those weapons were indeed smuggled aboard at Athens, probably via the transit lounge. One of two things seems clear. Either security at Athens Airport has again been unacceptably relaxed, or international airport security as currently practiced will have to be tightened up everywhere.
Today's hijackers claimed responsibility for the shooting of an Israeli diplomat in Cairo last August. They're thought to be from a shadowy group who call themselves Egypt's Revolution. They're pro-Libyan and vehemently opposed to any accommodation with Israel. 5 weeks ago, it was very different. Then the Achille Lauro hijackers had been skyjacked themselves while escaping in an Egyptian airliner. By sending in commandos at this stage, President Mubarak is making sure the embarrassment he suffered then won't be repeated. When US Navy jets scrambled to force down the Achille Lauro hijackers over the Mediterranean, it left President Mubarak at first stunned, then angry. He said America hadn't consulted him or even warned him in advance. Egypt, still emerging from years of Arab world isolation after the Camp David peace accords, had been severely embarrassed by Washington's thirst for a successful anti-terrorist strike. Airborne assault troops had swooped into Sicily. Then, only President Reagan, phoning Italian leader Bettino Craxi, stopped US and Italian troops exchanging shots on the ground. Egypt's Mubarak was left out and fell prey to Arab world criticism. It started with his own university students rioting. This time it's different. Crack Egyptian troops trained in joint desert exercises with Americans today arrived in Malta and now block the runway. This time, Mubarak calls the shots. Libya was a stated destination of the Malta hijackers, and today all Egyptian troops are on alert at home. Routes to Colonel Gaddafi's border have been closed.
36 people, mostly Americans, have been injured in a car bomb attack on a US military target in Frankfurt. The bomb exploded in a crowded shopping centre for American servicemen in the north of the city. It shattered windows, destroyed 42 cars, and blew a gaping hole in a nearby building. It's the third attack against American forces since August. The Archbishop of Canterbury's special envoy, Teddy Waite, has finally left Beirut after 4 days trapped by the fighting between rival Muslim militias. Mr. Waite is now in Athens, and he'll fly to New York tomorrow. He'll hold further talks there to try and free the 4 American hostages held in the Lebanon.
The militia conflict in West Beirut is still simmering, but a ceasefire of sorts is holding up in most places. The relative calm enabling people to move for the first time. So, after being pinned down for 3 days, it was time for the Archbishop's envoy to move on, the streets looking safe enough to travel. The fighting, he said, had not damaged his mission, but the killings had sickened him. Then a high-speed drive through Beirut, his car more or less unscathed by the battles, ours riddled with bullet holes. As ever, Mr. Waite was taking it all in his stride. Despite one car being shot at on the way, he later remarked that it had been an invigorating ride. At last, the airport and the resumption of his mission. No question about it, he said. After America, he would be back in Lebanon.
Yes, I think we've had positive developments already, and I think it's a matter of keeping momentum and keeping moving forward. We are doing that, and so far so good.
The IRA has failed in an attempt to free their top explosives experts from Portlaoise prison in the Irish Republic, the jail known as Ireland's Colditz. 11 terrorists reached the main gate area of the prison 50 miles from Dublin after escaping from their block with guns. Then they tried to blow their way out with a bomb, but it failed to go off properly, and they surrendered to guards. Among the IRA men trying to escape were Thomas McMahon, who murdered Lord Mountbatten in 1979, and Martin Ferris, who was caught smuggling arms from America on the trawler Marita Ann last year. The Daily Mirror's publisher, Robert Maxwell, has promised that the paper will be printed tonight, despite the printers' strike that started at the group today. But he said there'd be only one edition. Mr. Maxwell insisted 600 SOGAT workers had defied the strike call. The union said 60. Today the print workers started picketing Mirror headquarters. They decided to strike after Mr. Maxwell sent them all dismissal notices in a row about how to make staff cuts. Leslie Mitchell, the man whose voice launched television on both BBC and ITV, has died at the age of 80. Mr. Mitchell helped the inventor of TV, John Logie Baird, with early demonstrations in the 1930s, and he was also the voice at Movietone News. In 1936, he announced the opening of the BBC's television service.
This is the BBC television station at Alexandra Palace. At 3 o'clock this afternoon, the television service was opened by the Postmaster General using the Baird system. The opening programme will now be repeated on the Marconi EMI system.
Leslie Mitchell, who died today. Now, a quick look at some sports news. Finland's Markut Allen has taken the lead in the first day of the Lombard RAC Rally. But as the cars head for Wales tonight, Britain's Malcolm Wilson is holding 4th place in his mighty Metro.
For more than 20 years, it's been the Scandinavians who've dominated the RAC Rally. Today, they began where they left off last year, in total control. Timo Salonen first off the line, driving the Peugeot, which has already won him this year's World Championship. But if Peugeot was soon to boast 3 cars in the top 6, it was the new Lancias which were setting the pace. Marco Allen led the charge, building up a strong early lead. The Audis, first with the Quattro Revolution, are beginning to show their age. Even Mikkola, who's won the event 4 times, was struggling to keep in touch. The British Metro Challenge was going well in the early stages. Malcolm Wilson climbing into the top 4, half a minute behind the leader. Tony Pond, whose rally ended on the first stage last year, was taking it more gently this time. But despite some bodywork problems, the Lancias were unbeatable on the easy spectator stages. Tonight comes the first big test in the Welsh Mountains. Peter Staunton, ITN Sport, with the RAC Rally.
And now we're going back live to Michael Sheridan in Malta.
Details are still very sketchy. The plane is now surrounded by fire trucks, ambulances and police vehicles. The police are keeping all journalists away from the airport perimeter. But a large number of passengers have been seen fleeing from the plane, and we understand that all off-duty doctors and nurses in the whole island of Malta have been ordered to report to their hospitals. No one's saying officially who did it here tonight, but almost certainly it was the Egyptian commando squad who moved in under cover of darkness from their Hercules plane after the Maltese authorities had shut off all the airport lights and the hijackers had seen nothing.
And that's the very latest news from ITN. Good evening.
Now the weather outlook for the London area. Tonight will be mostly dry and cloudy, although there will be a little light rain at times. Later in the night, clearer conditions will spread from the north, allowing temperatures to drop to around 0 degrees Celsius, 32 degrees Fahrenheit, with a widespread frost. The wind will be light northeasterly, becoming northerly overnight. Tomorrow will be mostly dry with bright or sunny spells. Another rather cold day, with temperatures again only managing to reach around 5 degrees Celsius, 41 degrees Fahrenheit.
After the break, a special treat.
This year, how are you going to get into shape for the Christmas shopping? Pick up a free Boots catalogue and you can choose from hundreds of different gift ideas that are all under one roof. The Boots catalogue. It'll take the rough and tumble out of Christmas shopping.
As far as the eye can see, all this land is owned by my family. And as far back as anyone can remember, we Toninos have grown the grapes that make these excellent wines. Every year, the good vines give us these light, smooth reds and crisp, fruity whites. And every year, they taste as good as ever. No wonder the people of my village have a saying. A glass of Tonino a day keeps the storm clouds away. Salute.
Salute.
Sometimes the magic works, sometimes it doesn't.
Crunchy breadcrumbs with a lemony tang and a delicious fried scampi flavor. Scampi flavor fries from Smith's, or are they?
I'm going to tell you how it's going to be. With Scotch's lifetime guarantee. Tape what you want both night and day. Then re-record, not fade away. Re-record, not fade away. Re-record, not fade away.
Every recording as good as the first, or we'll give you a new tape. You can watch Scotch forever.
Re-record, not fade away.
Happiness is a cigar called Hamlet, the mild cigar.
Soon on Thames, the story of the Marxist and the priest.
You are like Don Quixote, Father. He rode off on Rocinante and did all his deeds of chivalry in a world that didn't believe in those old stories.
Accompanied by an ignorant man called Sancho.
Alec Guinness and Leo McKern star in Thames Television's Monsignor Quixote. Coming soon.
So where's true love?
Under the bed.
Jellicoe, where's true love?
Bob. Only 3 more minutes, Dawes. Cheer up.